So, Russia is really driving this whole fascist global terrorism that we're all suffering from no matter where you live. And so if you care about taking that on and confronting it, Russia needs to be defeated militarily in Ukraine. So talk to your members of Congress, talk to your local representatives, get people to speak to your book club, your film club, your local group, your activist club about why it's so important that Ukraine wins this war, and demand that they speed up the support that Ukraine needs. And yes, Crimea matters. We must get Crimea back. Why? Because if we don't liberate Crimea, which is suffering under human rights abuses, like any dictatorship, like the rest of Russia, if we don't get Crimea back, we're going to be back at a genocidal war 10 years from now after Russia regroups. Crimea is used as a staging ground by the Russian military. Yes, Crimea has to be liberated. That land has to go back to Ukraine and be secured for Ukrainians so that Russia can no longer use it to wage war and genocide against Ukraine. So yes, Crimea has to come back. It's Ukrainian first and foremost, and the indigenous group, the Crimean Tatars, are suffering some of the worst political repression under Russian occupation.
There was also a period right after the Reagan era, basically during George H.W. Bush's term, where you saw a lot of reporters practicing the same investigative type of journalism as, journalists during the 70s, which was the era, of course, of the Pentagon Papers and COINTELPRO and MK Ultra and all of these horrible government programs being revealed, and of Watergate, of course, which actually led to Nixon's resignation and the indictment of many. They wanted the same for Iran-Contra. And there you see how the structure of the media and of the political system changed to ensure that that could not happen again. That was the goal of Republican operatives. That is why Fox News was started. That was why there was this transnational alliance with Rupert Murdoch. That's why there are these transnational alliances in general that allow people to move money around, become untraceable, become more difficult to investigate. But what does happen, though, during these periods is a lot of very frank discussion about corruption, and it's often accompanied in America with a discussion about racism and about xenophobia. And you saw this during, the late 80s, early 90s as well. You saw groups like Public Enemy or directors like Spike Lee becoming mainstream figures. You saw TV sitcoms addressing topics, like police brutality and systemic racism in their shows. And then the backlash, the same sort of backlash, it happens again and again. And living through a backlash period is very hard. It's psychological warfare combined with the exhaustion of a long fight. And, we're still in that fight, but we're 7 years into, this particular iteration. And it has worn us out. But yes, of course, accountability is possible. And never forget that. Never let people convince you it's not, because that's what they want. If you don't think it's possible, you're going to stop demanding it. You're going to stop, expecting it. And so you need to keep your expectations high, even if you don't think they're going to be met.